This is it. Ooh, this is it, ladies and gentlemen. You've got Matty Brolick here, and what is it? You might be asking yourself. It is the first round of the National Pokeball League Season 8 playoffs, and the reason it is because this will be my final season in the National Pokeball League, and like I said, it's final. There's finality to this whole playoff run. So that means that it's time. It's time to, put our foot on the gas, put the pedal to the metal, and we got to try to make this run count and make it worth all this time spent in the National Pokeball League. So what I have on the screen here before you, I'm sorry that it's offset. I just have it this way because it makes it easier for my builder to line up correctly, and I figured you could still kind of see what I'm trying to show you in the picture here, is the Season 8 playoff picture. Now, if you guys take a look, here is the bracket, and the bracket is, I never uploaded my Week 10 game against Aster. Sorry about that. I really had a tight schedule going on last weekend, and that game didn't matter. It didn't matter in terms of making playoffs. Like, it was we essentially had a meme game. Like, I brought quadruple choice scarf, and he brought like level 75 Diggers B with Endeavor, and it wasn't a serious game. The only reason it mattered in some regard is because had I won that game, then I finished in the number 3 seed, which means I would have had a different first round playoff match. But it didn't matter that much at the end of the day because had I gone hard to beat Aster, then that would put me in the 3rd seed, which means I would have a decent chance at playing Aster. I'd be on his side of the bracket, and if we both win, then I'd have a decent chance at playing him in the playoffs, which means I kind of already, revealed a good strategy against him, which means I can't use that. So that's why I went with something memey, and he did as well. So he did end up winning that game, and we finished at 6-4, and we finished with the 5th seed because it was kind of a toss-up with who we'd play. If both Murk and Cheese Boy won, and Cheese won with a higher differential than Murk did, then he would pass Murk. If Murk lost and Cheese won, then Cheese would definitely pass Murk, and I would play Cheese. So it was pretty much between those two guys that I was going to have to play. But it turns out that Murk did win, and he won by enough differential to keep him ahead of Cheese. So he is my first round opponent in the playoffs. Now, we will scroll on over to the document. For anyone that knows people in the NPL pretty well, or knows me pretty well, you know that I have a bit of a history with Mr. Murkrow. Mr. Murkrow is a very accomplished draft format player. He's definitely one of the better players I've come across in the format. He's an excellent builder, and when he plays well, he's definitely hard to beat, no doubt about it. But we've had a history because he's always been someone who isn't afraid to voice his opinion, and, everyone's entitled to their own opinion and whatnot, but he just seems to be the one to voice it unnecessarily and be kind of rude about it. So him and I have kind of gone back and forth throughout the course of us knowing one another. But, silly beef and drama aside, like I said, I know he's a really talented Pokemon player, and it's going to be difficult to beat him, especially if he builds and plays well for this game, because he has a really good matchup against me, in my opinion. His team, it is a good-looking team, but it kind of reminds me of mine in the sense that his team's a lot fatter than mine. Here's his team over here, and I'm over here. Tapu Lele, obviously not necessarily a defensive Pokemon, really, really powerful, but it is bulky. But then you got things like Zapdos, Heatran, Alomomola, Mega Venusaur, Umbreon, and then he's got things like Dugtrio to trap. things that could be threats to his fat. So he does certainly have offensive presence because he's got Z-Dugtrio, he's got Z-Aerodactyl with that great speed. He's got some pretty nice speed tiers here, and he's got Kartana, which is an offensive powerhouse, but no Z moves on that, which is very, very nice. And obviously he's got Tapu Lele, one of the best breakers in the format. So he certainly has a team that has both a lot of offensive and defensive presence, but I do feel that it is a bit awkward, kind of like mine. That's how I feel like it's kind of like mine. Mine, I think, is a little more offensive overall. Actually, I wouldn't even say that. I think it's just the way I play it is more offensive because that's just my style. But I think we both have teams that have good Pokemon on them, like really solid Pokemon, just they're a little bit awkward overall. But I do think that Murk just has so many answers to what I could potentially bring, and his offense is also quite solid against me. So I put a lot of time into this team build because, as I mentioned before, I acknowledge how solid and dangerous Murk can be. So I have to make sure that I build a team that will allow me to kind of push the pace of the game and kind of dictate how it goes. Because if I can get inside Murk's head, I do think that the game will favor me winning, because if he doesn't get particularly lucky in certain scenarios, then I do think that I can outplay him and that I can outbuild him and whatnot. I've only played him twice before in the past, but we did win both times, and pretty handily actually. The first time was obviously a meme because, like, it's become a meme because I had a Magearna on my team, and obviously it's a broken Pokemon, but he just really didn't prepare very well for it, and it 6-0'd him. And then we had another game last NPL season, and I think we got a 4-0 victory over him last time. So we've had a good track record versus Murk in the past, but we've had not as bad matchups against him in the past. This time I really think that, like last season, I had that meme team, and that was one of the few games where I was like, okay, this is a pretty winnable matchup. This time around, you know, I think my team is fairly solid, but I just really don't like the matchup against him because he just has so many checks to all of my potential offensive breakers or powerhouses. I don't really have great breakers or powerhouses, but just offensive Pokemon. So definitely going to be a difficult game to win, and I'm going to have to prep my butt off to really do so. So anyway, like I said, here are the two teams. My Z users are Celesteela and Musharna. His are Aerodactyl, Dugtrio, and I will get over to the team build. So we're leading off with a sleeper, the Azelf. It's not a type of Sash Lead, Stealth Rock type Pokemon that I tend to gravitate towards. This is a Choice Scarf Azelf, which has enough speed for a potential Choice Scarf Kartana. Scarf Kartana, I think, is actually his best Kartana set against me. Once he's weakened my team, Kartana could really pick off a lot of threats quite easily, and once it starts rolling with the Beast Boost, it is a major threat. If I don't have something like Scarf Azelf or Scarf Latios, then Kartana outspeeds everything on my team. If he chooses to run that type of speed, for example, enough for Keldeo, because you know, if he doesn't run enough speed for Keldeo, then a Scarf Keldeo could pick off a Kartana. But yeah, I don't really know exactly what spread he is going to run on a Kartana if he does bring a Scarf one, but I personally would probably go with the Jolly, because unless he could find really specific things he feels Kartana needs to hit a little bit harder with an Adamant Nature, or he decides to run some bulk and less speed, I feel like that scenario is kind of unlikely because Kartana's bulk is just, you know, pretty low. So regardless, I think that it was important to creep the Kartana with this Azelf, just because I don't think it's worth risking not outspeeding a Pokemon that could just sweep my team if I'm not careful. So the Azelf only has 2 special attacking moves on this set, being both Psychic and Shadow Ball. They hit most of his team for at least neutral coverage. He's got 2 Dark types though, so he's got Umbreon and Frogadier, or Frogadier. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, but both of those obviously don't get hit neutrally by those 2 coverage moves. But I do have U-Turn, which can obviously hit a Frog hard because Frog is super frail, but U-Turn is just generally nice for momentum against his team because a lot of his team is threatened by Psychic coverage. And I have Stealth Rock on this set as well because I really couldn't think of a 4th move that I felt that I needed. And if I have Azelf in on a situation where I feel I could get up Stealth Rocks and force a switch, then I might as well do so, because I do have another Stealth Rocker on this team in Tyranitar, but I'll show you in a little bit. It's going to make some sense as to why I would want Stealth Rocks on Azelf as well. So, like I said, just a basic spread. I went with max special attack just because you guys know me, I'm always trying to find ways to optimize my EV spreads, but with Azelf and threats like potential Scarf Kartana, I need to get a certain amount of chip to put that thing in range of attacks. So with Azelf, I just want as much damage output as possible. So if it comes down to where Kartana is in range of a roll from one of Azelf's attacks, I would like the higher chance to be able to knock it out. So that's it for my Azelf set. Next up, we have Bring Celiop. It is somewhat of a switch into both Tapu Lele and Celesteela. It could be a nice Lele lure if he decides to bring something like Nature's Madness into Thunder, Bolt or Thunder, or just electric coverage in general, and he thinks that I'm going to go for a different move on his Lele, expecting him to switch out. I have the Wakan Berry. It also helps me potentially get a Toxic off on Zapdos if I feel I really need to do so. And my coverage is... the Flamethrower is important for Kartana, I feel, because just getting that thing out of the way opens doors for my team quite a bit. And Heavy Slam is really important because it just can OHKO the Lele, and you'll see why that's really important later on, as Toxic can hit the Zapdos, and Leech Seed is for switch-ins like Heatran, or just if there's nothing on his team that could take a Leech Seed at the moment. It's nice in that regard. Mega Venusaur is a very solid counter to this set, but I couldn't really afford anything to beat or really damage the Mega Venusaur. If I went something like Air Slash over Flamethrower without any special attack, it's still not doing much at all. So that is my Celesteela set. Hopefully it can work. As the good thing is that even if, for example, I go into Celesteela on Lele and he switches out, which is kind of a likely scenario, it's nice that I could pivot into the Lele, because otherwise I just have not even an inkling of a switch-in. So just having something that can come in and sponge hits from Lele and try to get me a little bit of momentum back is nice in general. But other than that, Celesteela is probably my most expendable member in this whole game, which is crazy because it's my best Pokemon. So next up, we have a pretty cool set here. We have Keldeo, the Keldeo, and we have a Rindoberry set, really bulky. We have enough speed to creep Zapdos and something that might be creeping a Zapdos. And with this bulk, we can live a +1 Kartana's Leaf Blade guaranteed after Stealth Rocks. Maybe even 2 rounds of Stealth Rocks, because I factored in for Sand as well. And I'm a Calm Mind, Taunt, Surf, Hidden Power, Psychic set, because Hidden Power Psychic can be nice for Mega Venusaur. Flying is generally better coverage, but I went with Psychic in case the Psychic terrain happens to be up at the time, because that will increase the damage output by a good amount, which would be really, really nice versus the Venusaur. So this set is... I'm definitely pretty proud of the way this set has been working in my test games and whatnot. It can come in on things like Heatran fairly easily and force them out, Calm Mind up, as things like Mega Venusaur come in. And at first, I did not have Taunt, but I figured that because so many Venusaurs were running things like Leech Seed or Sleep Powder, and they were going for that on my Keldeo, I figured Taunt was better because I could taunt the Venusaur, prevent it from going for any of those moves. And if I'm at +1 special defense, or even +2 potentially, as he goes for Giga Drain, it's going to do absolutely nothing with my Rindoberry. So that is quite nice, and then I could prevent him from healing up, and I could keep the Venusaur low or potentially just knock it out, which would be amazing. And it could also, like I said, lure Kartana, but it's more for the Venusaur because it really forces the Venusaur in. He really doesn't have good switch-ins to Keldeo outside of Mega Venusaur, which is one of the best ones for sure. But I do like the way this set came out. It is pretty weak because I don't have that much special attack investment, but if he's more of like a physically defensive Mega Venusaur, which is definitely a possibility because I have things like Mega Tyranitar, I have things like Mimikyu. Then this Keldeo really can put in a lot of work. And even if he is especially defensive, if I could play it right, I still can potentially lure the Venusaur and put in some work. So this Keldeo is quite nice against his team. And next up, we have another similar set, something that could lure a lot of his teams and is another setup threat. We have a pretty bulky and also pretty speedy Swords Dance Mimikyu with a Babiri Berry, because Babiri Berry is nice for both Flash Cannon on Heatran, but also Smart Strike on Kartana. We have enough bulk to live a Scarf Leaf Blade after Stealth Rocks, once our disguise is broken, which could be nice because we just need to get some damage off on the Kartana, and he's almost definitely in range of an Azelf Psychic, which is great because just a little bit of damage, and he's more than in range of Azelf Shadow Ball, but just a little bit of damage, and he's almost definitely in range of Azelf Psychic, unless he's running a lot more bulk on Kartana than I'm expecting. So that is kind of nice. It's nice as a lure here. It also could force things in like Venusaur and taunt it and either keep it low or knock it out, because I could live 2 Sludge Bombs after Stealth Rocks if he's a bulky Venusaur and he doesn't get a poison. So that is definitely pretty clutch, as +2 Shadow Claws will probably be doing around 40% or so, which means it'll be like a 3-hit KO on him once I taunt him. And the speed, I actually don't have enough to creep max speed Lele, but I highly doubt he's going to have more speed on his Lele than I have here on the Mimikyu, because I would imagine if anything he'll creep Nidoking, and if he does want to creep like a base 100 creep, I don't think he'll have as much as 303 for sure. And I wanted to have a little bit more attack on this set because I really just had so little without it, and Mimikyu was pitifully weak, so I put in a little bit more attack. And in all my mocks, this speed creep was a comfortable speed creep, never even came close to being outsped by a Lele. So ZDH over here, the Mimikyu definitely can put in some work, especially if Keldeo has already lured Venusaur and either kept it really low or taken it out. So that's the Mimikyu set. We have Shadow Claw and Drain Punch. Drain Punch hits a lot of his team fairly hard. He wouldn't normally go into something like Umbreon on Mimikyu, but if he does, if I'm at +2, Drain Punch will hurt him a good amount. The only annoying thing is that Foul Play will do a ton, if not knock me out. So that is pretty annoying, but like I said, if he has Umbreon, I really don't think he's going to want to go to Mimikyu. I mean, want to come in on a Mimikyu unless he's seen my whole set and realizes that he could tank a Drain Punch. So this Mimikyu definitely can put in a lot of work against his team, and having Taunt on it is pretty nice for things like Venusaur or a bulkier Zapdos. And yeah, so next up we have probably the main win con on the team. I don't know if I would say it's necessarily the main win con, but it can be depending on how the game plays out. So this Latios Xeno here, the Draco dropping old man, has Roost, Calm Mind, Refresh, and Mono Dragon Pulse. Now his only fairy type is Tapu Lele, and Tapu Lele is a Pokemon that can come in on Latios sets fairly easily, as it's got solid special bulk, so it could take even a super effective Shadow Ball from most Latios sets. And if he does realize that I'm a bulky Latios, he probably is going to know that Tapu Lele can check this thing. So the fact that I have Mono Dragon Pulse is obviously very limiting, because if Tapu Lele is around, then this Latios is essentially useless. But if Tapu Lele is gone, this Latios is essentially unstoppable depending on the team that he brings. If he does not bring Scarf Kartana, then, or if he doesn't bring Kartana at all, either one, then this Latios just goes crazy. If he does bring Scarf Kartana and he doesn't have X-Scissor, then this Latios can still go crazy if I don't play it stupidly. So eliminating Tapu Lele is one of the biggest things here, because I have a Latios that can just 1v1 pretty much his entire team with this set. And if I could lure things like Venusaur that have Leech Seed, then there is just so little he could do. to stop this Latios because it could last Mon against so many different Pokemon on his team and just set up and recover off potential status ailments and just blow him away with boosted Dragon Pulses. So the spread allows us to take less than half from a Kartana's Smart Strike. The Cobra Berry is obviously for things like knockoff on Kartana. I think that if he does bring Kartana, there's a very good chance he has knockoff. I don't think there's necessarily a great chance that he has X-Scissor, but if he does bring it, I take less than 75 from an X-Scissor, so after 2 Stealth Rock switches, I could still live an X-Scissor from Scarf Kartana, and overall, this thing can come in on quite a bit on his team, like Heatran, Zapdos, what else, Venusaur. This Pokemon can come in on quite a bit, but it's that type of thing that I really need to keep healthy and preserve to the late game, because if I could remove the Tapu Lele, then once I get a chance to set up the Latios, it should be able to win if that is the situation. So definitely have to be smart about that, and everything on my team is kind of set up to make sure that this Latios can do so, because as you saw, I already had a Lurberry on Celesteela for Tapu Lele. I have Azelf, which could outspeed and chip Tapu Lele. I have Mimikyu, which is designed to speed and either force out Tapu Lele or knock it out if I think he's going to stay in to break my disguise. Keldeo could outspeed Tapu Lele and get some damage off on it. And then finally, for our last Pokemon here, we have Brock Lesnar, the Mega Tyranitar, with max HP, 240 EVs and special defense, but we actually are adamant because we just needed this much to be able to live a timid Tapu Lele's Life Orb Focus Blast after Stealth Rocks. Yes, that's right. Mega Tyranitar could live a Life Orb Focus Blast from Tapu Lele because Mega Tyranitar just rolls that way. It is insane. Unboosted Moonblast from this thing do like under 35%. Like they do around 35%. It's just ridiculous how bulky this thing is. This moveset does seem kind of weird, but Pursuit is really important for Tapu Lele, because if it's a situation where I just need to get damage off on Tapu Lele, Pursuit plus Sand is most likely doing somewhere between 40 and 50%, which puts Tapu Lele in range of Azelf's Shadow Ball if he's not Assault Vest, which is definitely pretty important. And also, if he does switch out, then switching out plus if he took Sand maybe the turn before, or whatever the situation is, I could potentially put him in range of Stealth Rocks. And if I do have Stealth Rocks and he can't remove them, then his Tapu Lele will only have at most one more Stealth Rock switch in before it goes down, which means that I can eliminate it for Latios to have a chance to sweep later on. So we have Pursuit and we have Earthquake, because Earthquake hits most of his team for neutral coverage, and we have Protect on the set, because not only does it help us rack up Sand Chip on potential Tapu Lele, but what's really nice is that something like Dugtrio, say I bring in Tyranitar and I Pursuit something like Tapu Lele and Tapu Lele goes down, or I Pursuit it, or I just do something where he switches out on my Tyranitar, whatever the situation may be, and he brings in Dugtrio, and I am at around 87.5%, like after Stealth Rock. If I Protect on a Z Earthquake, which I definitely think he's going to have if he brings Dugtrio, if I Protect on a Z Earthquake, I could take that Z move through Protect and then another Earthquake from the Dugtrio and OHKO it with an Earthquake of my own. So that is really cool. If there's a situation where I really think the Tapu Lele is going to stay in on me, I can Earthquake it and get a really solid like 60 to 70% off on the Lele, which means that if I'm still in range of not being able to die to another attack from the Lele, like if I'm still out of range of Moonblast, then the next turn I click Pursuit because that Lele is gone. And yeah, this Tyranitar is just ridiculous. Like, I just told you that thing about Dugtrio. I only have max HP and 4 defense. Like, I really don't have that much bulk, defensive bulk on this Mega Tyranitar. But Mega Tyranitar is just one of the bulkiest Pokemon in the game. It's insane. So I have those moves, and then I have Stealth Rock, because if there's a scenario where maybe I knock out the Tapu Lele, or I just really need Stealth Rocks for chip damage because he really has the ability to just switch in and out on my team if he brings a more defensive squad. Then I can go for Stealth Rocks because Azelf really doesn't get a ton of opportunities to set up Stealth Rocks, but because this Tyranitar is really specifically tailored for the Tapu Lele, there's also a chance that Tyranitar doesn't set up the Stealth Rocks either. So that is the game plan for Mr. Murkrow and his threatening team. So I know that was a lot. I've already spent 25 minutes just going over the team, but like I said, I put a lot of time into this build because I felt that I needed to. Murk just really is a very big threat, and his team just has a lot of answers to my Pokemon, so I needed to really think outside the box and find ways to, like I said, just push the pace of the game, really make it so even though he has answers to my Pokemon, I'm just always keeping him a little off balance so I could be confident in the plays that I'm making, where he's a little on the defensive, trying to question what plays he should make in certain scenarios and whatnot, because I've caught him off guard. So that is what I'm going to do. Even though like I'm really proud of this team, I've still been having trouble in my mocks, not really losing them, but it's all come down to situations where it's been really close games or certain plays could have changed the course of the game. So it's going to be a tough one no matter what, but I'm going to do my best. That's what I do at the end of the day. I come out and I put on 6-star classics because Maddie Omega, that's what we're about, baby. So Maddie versus Murk, round 3. Let's do this. I'll see you guys there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for Maddie versus Murk round 3. Hope you are all excited because I know that this one certainly made some waves when the game was announced. So we are standing across from the men whom yeet, as over here you have none other than Maddie Brolic, myself, Maddie Omega, looking to put on another 6-star classic, but hopefully take the win because, like I had mentioned earlier, this is my final run in the National Pokeball League Season 8, so I'm hoping to make the most of it. And if we win this game, we play the winner of either Gypsy King or Togavor. So, you know, I definitely want to be able to make it to that game. And yeah, but it's not going to be easy at all because, like I mentioned in the team builder, if you did not watch it, I really think that Murk has a good matchup against me, and Murk is a very talented Pokemon player that can easily beat me if I don't play it well. So I'm really proud of the team that I built, but I still think that the matchup is rough. So I'm going to have to play as well as I can to ensure this victory. And even then, it's Pokemon, so even if I play at my best, there's always a chance he could outplay me, or hacks can be involved, of course, RNG factors that, you know, will take away from a win that might seem assured. So let's get into it. So at team preview, I do not see Umbreon, which is a good thing. Umbreon is probably the Pokemon that I'm not least prepared for, but it's a Pokemon that can just do a lot of work against my team, and I felt as though I needed the Mons on my team to, how do I say this? I needed to tweak my team to be able to handle a lot of the other threats on his team more so than Umbreon, because I have certain things that could straight up just shut Umbreon down, or a lot of things that could just straight up scare out Umbreon. But at the end of the day, like, if he keeps Umbreon healthy, then that can 1v1 a lot of my team, if or just straight up could 1v1 a lot of my team. So it was really good to not see the Umbreon come. But other than that, he pretty much brought the biggest threats. I really wasn't that afraid of the Doug Trio. I feel as though I have a solid matchup, or I have solid prep for it. But I was more afraid of the Aerodactyl, and he did bring that. And he brought Kartana, which I was really hoping to not see. If he didn't bring the Kartana, and if he didn't bring Kartana and Umbreon, I would be like so confident in being able to win this game. But he did bring the Kartana, and he also brought the Aerodactyl, which I'm really afraid of. And everything else I was pretty much expecting, like the Lele, the Zapdos, Heatran, and Mega Venusaur. Those have all been very consistent brings. So, like I mentioned in the builder, Azelf is my not suicide lead, it's just my dedicated lead. And that is what I'm going to stick with here. As I lead with the Azelf, my Asleeper, as he leads with his Zapdos, he does reveal to have pressure and not static, so I don't mind going for the U-turn here, because I'm not afraid of getting paralyzed, as he goes for a U-turn of his own, and now he brings in the Tapu Lele, so he's got some momentum right off the bat, and I switch into my Celesteela. He goes for the Moonblast, and for this play I'm contemplating like what to go for, because I really think that he's probably going to switch out his Lele, not wanting to risk Thunderbolt not killing me, or if he has Thunder, he has to worry about missing, and also the potential of me being Wakan, which I am. So I'm really tempted to go for Toxic here, but I'm really thinking about it, and I'm just like, okay, Venusaur is a guaranteed switch into my Celesteela. Heatran is pretty much a guaranteed switch, and the worst I could do to Heatran is Leech Seed. Zapdos being toxic is definitely annoying for him, but Zapdos is a solid switch into my Celesteela. I really don't have a best play. Like, if I was going to go for anything, I would go for Toxic, because it could punish him the most if he does go Zapdos. But overall, I just decide that if he does stay in with Tapu Lele here and go for something like Nature's Madness or an electric move, then I can either get big damage off with Heavy Slam if he is Babiri Berry, or I knock him out, which would be amazing. So I am going to stay in and go for Heavy Slam, because I really don't feel that any of my other moves are potentially great against him, because even if he goes into Venusaur and I Flamethrower, if he's a bulky Venusaur, it's just not going to do that much, because he doesn't have the thick fat yet, and then he just evolves and I can't touch him. So I'm going to go for the Heavy Slam. As you're going to see, he does stay in. He Thunders. We chew that up really well with the Wakan Berry, and we just take out the Lele. That is amazing, because like I said before, or like I showed you guys in the team builder, if you did not watch it, my Latios is a Calm Mind Roost Refresh Mono Dragon Pulse Latios. So with the Tapu Lele being gone, that means my Latios' chance of winning just got so much better. But because he brought the Aerodactyl to this game, Latios is not quite as consistent of a win con, because if he keeps the Z move on Aerodactyl, or if he has Crunch on Aerodactyl, he also has Unnerve as an ability, then he can go through my Latios' Colbur and whatnot, and I can't really check the Aerodactyl very well. I can't really take hits from it very well. So Tapu Lele being gone is amazing. But overall, I think that I need to make sure that I either weaken or get rid of the Aerodactyl, because that is pretty much the main thing standing in the way of Latios at this point. Kartana can as well if he is Scarf and has X-Scissor. Scarf with Knockoff isn't too big of a threat, because when I have the Cobra Berry, then Knockoff does nothing. And once he removes the Cobra Berry, Knockoff still doesn't do that much. Like, if I'm above, I don't know, like 60%, he's not knocking me out. So I like the position that I'm in, but like I said, I'm really afraid of that Aerodactyl, because my Celesteela just got severely weakened, and he may not have to burn his Z move to nuke the Celesteela. So this is overall, I'm happy with what happened here, but I still have to be very careful. So he goes back into Zapdos. I'm going to go to Tyranitar here, because Tyranitar was not designed to switch into anything. My goal with Tyranitar was to sack something to Tapu Lele and switch into Tyranitar and get damage off it one way or another. But because he already lost his Tapu Lele, I could play my T-Tar way more recklessly. And I don't think he's going to go for a U-turn here, because he doesn't lose much by going for a Discharge or a Thunderbolt, because if I switch into Tyranitar, then he can, what's it called? Like, what was I going to say? If I switch into Tyranitar, it's a Mega T-Tar, so there's no way I could outspeed his Zapdos, unless he's really not running like no speed on Zapdos and a really fast Tyranitar. But, you know, he probably knows that he's faster. I would imagine that he's faster because I have things like Nidoking that he should probably want to outspeed. So he doesn't lose much by going for an electric attack. And if he does U-turn, it's not that big of a deal. But overall, I think going for an electric attack is his best play, because I don't think he has a reason to let my Celesteela do any more damage to his team. So he does just go for Thunderbolt. And that is nice, because this means I'm getting my Stealth Rocks up. He does reveal to have the leftovers on the Zapdos, and now I am going to go for my Rocks, as he does stay in U-turn as he goes into Kartana. Now here I can protect and scout this Kartana, but I'm not going to, just because if he turns out to be a substitute Kartana, then I could be in so much trouble. I really am pretty confident that he's going to be Scarfed, but I don't have a reason to play it that riskily at this point, because I'm in a pretty solid spot, and I just don't have this. It just would be too much of a risk if he does set up a sub here, because he is claiming at least one Pokemon if I do allow him to set up a substitute here. So I switch into Celesteela as he does go for Sacred Sword, which is pretty obvious, but I'm actually going to let this go down instead of going into Mimikyu, because I just don't want to make an unnecessary risk. If I go into Mimikyu and he turns out to not be Scarfed, that's bad. That is bad. I'm no longer in a good position, so I don't have a reason to risk and go into Mimikyu right now, so I just let my Celesteela go down. He gets the attack boost. Now I can go into Azelf because I am confident that he's Scarfed. And if he does decide to stay in, which I don't think he will, because Azelf could easily go for something like a Flamethrower. If he does not stay in, then I just U-turn out and get momentum. If he does stay in and I U-turn, I can go into Mimikyu, because, like I said, I'm confident that this thing is Scarfed at this point. So, I am going to go for the U-turn as he goes into the Heatran, and if he had a Balloon, that would have been nice to pop it, but it does allow me to scout the set because he does have leftovers. So here I bring in my Keldeo. If you did not see the builder, I am a Calm Mind, Taunt, Surf, and HP Psychic Keldeo with not that much special attack, a lot of bulk, and a Rindo Berry to be able to lure Mega Venusaur and even potentially Kartana, as I could live a +1 Leaf Blade from Kartana after 2 rounds of Stealth Rock. So I go for Calm Mind here as he goes for Protect. That is really, really good for me. But now here, I'm kind of torn. Do I just go for big damage on the Heatran? Because Venusaur will take a good chunk coming in before it's Mega'd and taking Stealth Rock damage. Do I go right for Taunt because it can cover potential Roar or Toxic on Heatran and also cover a Venusaur switch because then I have already gotten him taunted? Or do I go for another Calm Mind? And I decide that I'm going to go for another Calm Mind here, because if he does Toxic me, it's not the end of the world. I'll still be able to 1v1 the Venusaur at +2 if he switches in after this, because I'll have to come in and take a Surf, and then I can knock him out probably in 2 hits. So that is nice. And if I do, for example, go for Taunt on this turn, and he switches into Venusaur, which I think is his best play, then if he's especially defensive Venusaur, then he can Giga Drain me, break the Rindo, and keep Giga Draining to the point where he'll be out of range once the taunt ends, to the point where it becomes a 50-50 whether I taunt or attack him again, expecting him to go for either a Synthesis or an attack. So I don't want that 50-50 to arise, and I don't know if he's going to have a Toxic or anything like that here. So I'm just going to go for another Calm Mind here, because I really think that Venusaur is probably going to be his play, but he does stay in and go for Toxic, so good play on his part. As here I'm going to go for a Surf. I really don't think he's going to stay in and Protect and let me get up another Calm Mind. So here he goes right into the Venusaur, as now I am going to just go right for the Taunt, because there's a good chance he lives this HP Psychic from here, especially if he's specially defensive, as I go for the Taunt, and he does go for Synthesis. So that was the right play, because now you're going to see he's in range of a Surf here, and that covers all of his switches, as I could just click and Surf. I'm guaranteed to get a kill here. Unfortunately, Keldeo goes down as well, but luring the Venusaur was very nice. As here, I go into my Tyranitar, because I'm thinking that his play is going to be Aerodactyl, because Azelf can't knock out a I can't OHKO a Mega, or I can't OHKO an Aerodactyl with anything but like Thunderbolt. And if I have Thunderbolt, then, and he may be EV to live a Thunderbolt, I don't know. Either way, Heatran's always a pretty solid switch into Azelf. Like, the one thing he's probably not going to want to go into is Kartana, because Kartana allows me to just U-turn on the obvious switch out, because with Aerodactyl, it's kind of a toss-up whether I have coverage for it. It's a toss-up on what move I'm going to go for, because I don't really have a switch in Aerodactyl at this point. So if he goes in Aerodactyl, he pretty much has initiative on like anything else that I could bring in, except for maybe a Pursuit Tyranitar or Tyranitar with some type of coverage for him. But if he doesn't expect me to go for Pursuit here, then he's probably thinking I could bring in Arrow. It's the best Pokemon I could bring in on the rest of his team right now, and if he brings in Tyranitar, I'll just switch. So he goes into Aerodactyl. Now, the only move I have that could even touch this thing is actually Pursuit. So, regardless of whether he's going to switch out or not, I have to go for Pursuit here, because if he does stay in, obviously he's taking the Stealth Rocks here, so he's going to be at 75, and the Pursuit's going to do a solid 30-something, so I'll be able to put him in range of an Azelf Psychic. So either way, Pursuit is a solid play, but if he switches out, that's amazing, because that puts him in range of Stealth Rocks coming back in, or even just knocks him right out. I don't know. But regardless, if he does switch out, which is actually kind of likely, because if Aerodactyl is a Z move here, then it's definitely going to be, almost definitely going to be Z Stone Edge, because Aerodactyl can't really hit Celesteela that hard with anything but Z Stone Edge. So, and Rocky MZ is just generally a huge nuke against my team, because Nidoking is not a switch into Rockium. If he has something like Wing Attack, Keldeo is not a switch into Rockium. Either way, Keldeo takes a big chunk. So it's very likely that this Arrow is Rocky MZ. And if he's Life Orb, I could still chew an Earthquake from the Aerodactyl with my Tyranitar on this set. So I am going to go for the Pursuit and hope that he does try to preserve this, which he does. That is amazing. That is really, really good. As here he goes into Heatran, which is the best thing he could have gone into. Had he gone hard into Kartana, that would have been a little bit annoying. I could have protected, and if he'd gone for Sacred Sword, then that wouldn't be too bad, but Kartana would have been a little bit more annoying than the Heatran, because Heatran, I know he's either going to go for Stealth Rocks or an attack, and I'm going to be able to knock out the Heatran here with the Earthquake. So he does go right for a Flash Cannon that just completely bounces off as we take out the Heatran with Earthquake. Mega Tyranitar putting in the work right now. As here he goes in a Kartana, and I don't even have a reason to protect here. I just go right for the Earthquake. As here I can go right into ZDH, the Mimikyu. I'm just clicking Drain Punch here because I most likely outspeed the Zapdos and can beat it 1v1. And just like if he sacks Arrow, then he goes into Zapdos. I pretty much beat the Zapdos 1v1 unless he happens to outspeed me, which I still kind of beat it because I think I could avoid a 2-hit KO from it. But I am just clicking Drain Punch here because this puts Kartana in almost guaranteed range of Azelf Psychic unless he happens to be like Assault Vest or something crazy. So I am just going to click Drain Punch here as he Leaf Blades and breaks my Disguise. And now I am going to let him knock me out here. As next I'm going into my Azelf, and I am going to go for the Psychic because if he is a Jolly Choice Scarf Kartana, which I believe he is based off the damage that he did on my Celesteela earlier, then if he's Jolly, then he's almost definitely creeping Keldeo, which means he probably does not have a lot of bulk on this Kartana, which makes him in guaranteed range of Psychic. If he is something like Adamant, and he's running a little bit more bulk because he can afford a little bit more bulk that way, then the roll is heavily in my favor for Psychic, but it's not guaranteed. But I'm kind of forced to risk it here. That's how bad this matchup is. Like, it seems like I'm outplaying him this whole time, and I still have a chance to lose this. So I'm going to go for the Psychic as he makes his best play and sacks the Aerodactyl, and now brings in Zapdos because Zapdos can recover up on Azelf. So I'm going to go right into Latios here because Latios is my best play, because if he U-turns, then he is most likely in range of Azelf Psychic after Stealth Rocks, because Kartana will be in range of Psychic for sure after he comes in on the next round of Rocks. So say he comes in and he knocks out my Latios, which he wouldn't be able to do after a U-turn if he goes for a knockoff. The only way he'd be able to do it is if he has X-Scissor or gets like a really high roll on something like Smart Strike. So if he knocks me out with X-Scissor, then there is a good chance that Azelf's Psychic knocks out Zapdos after he comes back in on Rocks. So overall, Latios is my best play here, because if he does Roost up, then I pretty much just win the game, because I'm going to Roost here on his likely U-turn. And this guaranteed puts me out of range of a Scarf X-Scissor from Kartana, as I am just going to fire off a Dragon Pulse here, as he does go for the knockoff. and the Cobra Berry weakens the damage. As now we are able to just go right for the roost here, as it's pretty much good game. If he had Toxic, I have Refresh. If he gets a Power with Thunderbolt, I have Refresh. As long as he just doesn't keep like paralyzing me in a row, that is the only way I could lose the game at this point. So I'm just going to speed it up because we do set up to +2, and we do guarantee to KO the Zapdos and pick up the victory against Mr. Murkrow and his San Francisco Regigiants in the first round of the playoffs. We did it, ladies and gentlemen. We beat Murk for the 3rd time in a row, thankfully, because a lot of people that I've played for the 3rd time, after I've beaten them twice, I end up losing. So, you know, I was afraid that the same thing would kind of repeat there. Kind of superstitious, but, you know, if he had a chance to beat me, it really would be with this matchup. So I'm really glad with how we played and prepped, and we're able to keep Murk kind of off balance for the whole game, which was my plan. Unfortunately, I don't think he necessarily played his best game. The main mistake that I think he made was just leaving his Lele in on Celesteela like that when he had so many potential checks to Celesteela. But other than that, I do think he played and prepped well. And because we were able to really keep him off balance, it kind of forced him to play a certain way, which I'm sure he wishes he kind of made different plays in certain scenarios. But I kind of encouraged him to play that way because of the way that I prepped and kept him off balance. So really glad that my plans worked out the way that they did. This gives us the opportunity to play in the NPL semifinals for Season 8, and it is either going to be against Gypsy King or Tog of War. And that game hasn't happened yet, so I couldn't even spoil the winner for you if I tried right now. But, you know, this is no disrespect to Tog. He's a good buddy of mine, and I really respect him as a player, but I really would like to be able to play Gypsy one more time in the NPL before I leave. So I'm definitely rooting for Gypsy in that match, and really want to get the opportunity to play him one more time. It would obviously be cool to play him in finals. Everyone always says, you know, Matty Gypsy finals. That's what people have always been expecting in the NPL, but I've never actually made it. But to me, as much as being in the finals would be cool, I just want to play Gypsy in a game that really counts and have a good time, because I've had some of my fondest memories in the NPL playing against Gypsy, and that brings out the most fun for me in the draft format, is just playing against someone I really, really respect more than pretty much anyone else in the draft format. And he's just one of my closest friends as well. I think it would just be such a great way to go out, win or lose, and I really want the opportunity to play him. So hopefully he'll get the win over Tog as well. But like I said, if Tog wins, he's a good friend of mine as well, and I really respect him as a player too. So that will be a great challenge to be able to go up against him in the semifinals. But yeah, definitely rooting for Gypsy. Hopefully we'll have a Matty Gypsy semifinals in the NPL playoffs, a game that really, really counts, where the stakes are high. And yeah, hopefully we can take the win. We played him earlier in the season, and it really was a good game that could have gone either way depending on how certain plays went, but he ended up taking a pretty big 4-0 win over us because he really got us on a few plays. So hopefully if we get the chance to play him, we can change the outcome this time. And yeah, that is all I have to say for this game. GG to Murk. Go check out his channel and the rest of the NPL channels. There will be 4 playoff matches to watch, so I encourage you to go watch those and keep up with those. And that is pretty much all I have to say. Definitely really happy with how this game went down. It really was a clean game too, so can't be unhappy about that. And Los Angeles Reshirams, baby, we are in the NPL semifinals for Season 8. Let's see what we could do. Hope you all had a good time watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. But most importantly, have yourselves a fantastic day. And I will see you all in the next one later.